Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So we are back with yet another fall cozy video for this month. Finally getting started on October, so this is very exciting. We're officially in spooky season. In case you couldn't tell by today's video's title, we're going to be talking about all my favorite recommendations of spooky season books. So this is all the books that you should read during spooky season. They're all cozy, they're all very fall, cozy, spooky vibes. There's not gonna be anything too scary because I don't typically do like big time scary stuff. If you guys are looking for some new spooky season books, some cozy books to get wrapped up into for spooky season, and maybe just some like fun books to cozy up with for the fall, this is going to be the video for you. So without further ado, let's get started. So starting out, we're going to talk about the Lockwood & Company series by Jonathan Stroud. So to kind of give you a little bit of a synopsis of the first book of this series, which is called The Screaming Staircase. When the dead come back to haunt the living, Lockwood & Company step in. For more than 50 years, the country has been affected by a horrifying epidemic of ghosts. A number of psychic investigation agencies have sprung up to destroy the dangerous apparitions. Lucy Carlyle, a talented young agent, arrives in London hoping for a notable career. Instead, she finds herself joining the smallest, most ramshackle agency in the city, run by the charismatic Anthony Lockwood. When one of their cases goes horribly wrong, Lockwood & Co. have one last chance of redemption. Unfortunately, this involves spending the night in one of the most haunted houses in England and trying to escape alive. Set in a city stalked by specters, The Screaming Staircase is the first in a chilling new series full of suspense, humor, and truly terrifying ghosts. Your nights will never be the same again. One thing I do want to point out about this series is that for some reason these books are found in the kids section at Barnes & Noble. Not the young adult section, the kids section. And speaking as somebody in their 20s that read these books, there are some scenes that I'm a little freaked out. There's some like kid ghosts and stuff, which nobody likes a child ghost, like they're always creepy. So there are some scenes that are a little bit spooky, but overall I loved this series. If you're not familiar, the books were made into a TV series on Netflix. They only got one season, and that first season is books 1 and 2. And so it's really disappointing because the third book is actually my favorite book of the entire series. So it was really upsetting because we definitely would have gotten books 3 and 4 most likely for the next season, at least book 3. It's really upsetting that it's canceled, and I will die on the hill that they should bring that sucker back because I would argue that it actually got pretty good ratings. I think that it was one of the shows that got axed due to COVID negotiations, and like funding during COVID was a little short. I love this series. It's a great cozy spooky read. It follows 3 like kids, I guess you want to call them. They're teenagers. 3 teenagers, Lucy, Anthony, and George, as they run this investigation agency. So in this world, only kids can see, hear, have the sight or this like hearing of ghosts. And each kid has a different like special ability. So for Anthony Lockwood, he has the sight, so he can see ghosts and he can like see the place where they died and all that kind of stuff. Lucy has the hearing ability, so she can hear the death and she can hear like echoes from the ghosts. So each person has their own special ability, but only kids can see ghosts. So once they get to a certain age, they lose the ability to see ghosts and really fight them. And so the adults run the agencies and kids are the actual agents. But at this company, Lockwood & Co., Anthony runs it himself in his old house, and Lucy and George work for him. And it's just a really good series, and it's very cute. I think the story is great. I don't understand why it's in the kids section, I'm gonna be real, because there are parts that spooked me, but also it's just a really good story for being a kids book. So I highly recommend. If you like a good like ghost story type book that's just kind of a cozy vibe, this is the book for you. If you like the series, then please go watch the season on Netflix. Yes, you're only getting one season, so you're only getting the first 2 books, but they did a really great job with the adaptation. The next book on my list is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. If you follow me on Bookstagram, then you'll know that Erin A. Craig is not at all a shocker for me to recommend. I love all of her books. She does really good spooky vibes, and she's perfect for spooky season. I actually have 2 books by her that I'll be reading this month that I haven't gotten to read yet. House of Salt and Sorrows is one of my ultimate favorites by her. It's a perfect spooky season book. I will go ahead and precursor this before I give you the synopsis. If you were a Barbie movie fan like I was, and you watched 12 Dancing Princesses, this is kind of that, but like a spooky version. In a manor by the sea, 12 sisters are cursed. Annalee lives a sheltered life at Highmore with her sisters and their father and stepmother. Once there were 12, but loneliness fills the grand halls now that 4 of the girls' lives have been cut short. Each death was more tragic than the last. The plague, a plummeting fall, a drowning, a slippery plunge. And there are whispers throughout the surrounding villages that the family is cursed by the gods. Disturbed by a series of ghostly visions, Annalee becomes increasingly suspicious that her sister's deaths were no accidents. The girls have been sneaking out every night to attend glittering balls, dancing until dawn in silk gowns and shimmering slippers. And Annalee isn't sure whether to try to stop them or join their forbidden trysts. Because who or what are they really dancing with? When Annalee's involvement with a mysterious stranger who has secrets of his own intensifies, it's a race to unravel the darkness that has fallen over her family before it claims her next. House of Salt and Sorrows is a spellbinding novel filled with magic and the rustle of gossamer skirts down long, dark hallways. Be careful who you dance with. I love this book more than life itself. It does kind of have somewhat of a sequel, which is called House of Roots and Ruin. It's about one of the other sisters. You know, you kind of conclude Annalee's story with this book. But I love this series, and I'm really hoping that Erin's gonna keep it going, because now I just want to learn about all the sisters. It's very spooky. There are some scenes where I was a little bit like, oh, turn the light on. And it was very 12 Dancing Princesses coded, just like a little bit of a spookier vibe thrown in. I like the way that Erin A. Craig writes her books because she always throws in like myths and fables into there. You do have the mystery element of trying to figure out what happened to the other sisters. Is the family cursed? You do have also the mystery element of the guy that Annalee is dancing with, and you know, how are they getting there every night? And it's kind of like a portal they step through, and you're not ready for the plot twist that is to come. But I love this book. I love the series that she's created out of it. Erin writes a mean, spooky novel. I will say, this book, if you were a fan of Nancy Drew that was on the CW, you would probably like this book because it kind of gave Nancy Drew vibes. I was consistently like picturing the way that you see ghosts and stuff in Nancy Drew, and even in Lockwood and Company, of how they were picturing these ghosts in House of Salt and Sorrows. I actually at one point did a TikTok a while ago that was like, if this seems interesting, read this book, and I was using scenes from Nancy Drew to like make like a fake like trailer thing. 10 out of 10 recommend. It's a good cozy book. It's a good mystery, and has definite eerie vibes, so perfect for spooky season. The next book that I have on here is one that's gonna keep you guessing even after you've read it. I think it's been almost a year since I read it, and I still think about this book on the daily because it drives me insane, and that is We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kluwer. As a young queer couple who flips houses, Charlie and Eve can't believe the killer deal they've just gotten on an old house in a picturesque neighborhood. As they're working in the house one day, there's a knock on the door. A man stands there with his family, claiming to have lived there years before and asking if it would be alright if he showed his kids around. People pleaser to a fault, Eve lets them in. As soon as the strangers enter their home, inexplicable things start happening, including the family's youngest child going missing and a ghostly presence materializing in the basement. Even more weird, the family can't seem to take the hint that their visit should be over. And when Charlie suddenly vanishes, Eve slowly loses her grip on reality. Something is terribly wrong with the house and with the visiting family. Or is Eve just imagining things? This is one of those psychological thrillers. It's a little sci-fi fantasy, but it's one of those psychological thrillers that you're going to be thinking about every single day, and you're going to kind of end the book like on a non-conclusive note a little bit. And so there's so many theories that have been drawn from this book. I do recommend that after you read it, you take straight to Reddit, because Reddit has a lot of fun theories of things that were happening in the book. It almost kind of has like the vibes of like that movie Mother with Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem. It kind of has that vibe of like afterwards you're like, oh, what does all that mean? Like, that's crazy. We read it for book club last year, and I will say that everyone in the book club absolutely loved it, and I think it's one of the only books that we read in book club that everyone absolutely loved, and we were all talking about theories, and it was just a crazy time. I know at one point it was supposed to get made into a Netflix either series or movie, and Blake Lively was going to be in it. Now that may be held up because of the Justin Baldoni stuff going on, but I'm hoping that they're still going to make that movie because it was a great book and I really want to see it play out in a movie. I think it'll be interesting to see everything come to life. It's definitely more on the sci-fi range. You do have a little bit of like some ghostly stuff going on with supernatural paranormal stuff. I would put it sci-fi just strictly because of the way that the book ends, and you'll just kind of have to see for yourself what I mean by that. I love the book. I think it's perfect for spooky season. It's one of those that's going to be a little bit eerie. It's going to keep you up at night. You're going to have to finish it in one sitting, and you know, it's going to be one that you're going to want to cozy up with. It's a good book. I actually have a TikTok out there of like me before reading We Used to Live Here and me after reading We Used to Live Here. After reading it, I wanted to be locked away in a padded cell, rocking in the corner, because it's one of those that you're just like, what did I just read? But 5 out of 5, loved the book. It's great spooky season recommendation. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you do. The next book on my list is one that I discovered this author last year and have since picked up more of her books. In fact, a lot of her books are on my spooky TBR this October, and that is The Briar Book of the Dead by A.G. Slatter. She is a newer author I'd never really heard of before, and I'd had this book on my shelf for a while, so I read it last spooky season and was just floored, blown away by how good the book was. So I definitely ordered more of her books immediately and have some of them on my TBR for this month. Ellie Briar is the first non-witch to be born into her family for generations. The Briar family of witches run the town of Silverton, caring for its inhabitants with their skills and magic. In the usual scheme of things, they would be burnt for their sorcery, but the church has given them dispensation, that's a big word, in return for their protection of the borders of the Darklands, where the much-feared Leech Lords hold sway. Ellie is being trained as a steward, administering for the town and warding off the insistent interest of the church. When her grandmother dies suddenly, Ellie's cousin, Audra, rises to the position of Briar Witch, propelling Ellie into her new role. As she navigates fresh challenges, an unexpected new ability to see and speak to the dead leads her to uncover sinister family secrets, stories of burnings, lost grimoires, and evil spells. Reeling from one revelation to the next, she seeks answers from the long dead and is forced to decide who to trust, as a devastating plot threatens to destroy even the Briar Witch's everything the Briar Witches have sacrificed so much to build. So this is definitely like Salem witch trial vibes. You're definitely dealing with a bunch of witches here. I kind of pictured like Salem witch trial days, and you kind of have the Darklands are like these woods, like these like dark woods that have like some sinister magic going on. They have some dark magic. People are turning up dead that lived in the Darklands, and their job as the Briar Witches is to keep the like Darklands at bay from this town in Silverton. And that's the only reason they're really allowed to practice magic. But you follow Ellie, and she's going through the trials of learning about her newfound power of being able to speak to the dead. She's trying to continue with her training as a steward, and she's kind of making friends with the new head of the church and dealing with people from out of town that want to take the Briar Witches down because they think that they're actually the reason for the Darklands. It's like a whole thing. But if you like the witch vibe, if you like the Salem witch trial vibe, you know, more back in the day, just a really solid spooky season read with witches and magic and darkness and family secrets and speaking to the dead. It's just a solid read. The next book on my list is one that I recently finished that I cannot stop thinking about, and that is You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. Someone actually recommended me reading this book last year, and I just really never got around to getting it or reading it, so I added it to my list this year, and I actually read it in September, and I will say this book floored me. I listened to the audiobook, and I listened to the whole thing in one day, literally 24 hours, and I still think about this book ever since I finished it. It's one of those books that I genuinely can guarantee you that you do not see the ending coming. Grace Evans, an overworked New Yorker looking for a total escape from her busy life, books an Airbnb on a ranch in the middle of Wyoming. When she arrives, she's pleasantly surprised to find that the owner is a handsome man by the name of Calvin Wells. But there are things Grace discovers that she's not too pleased about. A lack of cell phone service, a missing woman, and a feeling that something isn't right with the town. Despite her uneasiness and misgivings from Calvin's friends and family, the two grow close and start to fall for one another. However, as her departure date nears, things between them start to change for the worse. Grace grows wary of Calvin as his infatuation for her seems to turn into an obsession. Calvin fears that Grace is hiding something from him. So I want you, like, as you're reading this book, and this will only make sense as you read it, it really gave me Joe vibes from like season 2 of You. I really enjoyed this book. I will say it has a trope of unreliable narrator in there. I'll let you try to figure out who you think the unreliable narrator is, because it is a dual POV. But I thought this book was very good. It created a good, like, eerie vibe of, you know, you showed up to this small town, maybe she shouldn't have. Kind of had a Deliverance type vibe going. But it's very good. I liked the story. It kept me hooked. You were constantly kind of on the edge of your seat. I remember reading it and just literally being on the edge of my seat the whole time, and just from start to finish, just like screaming at the audiobook, like, what are you doing? You're an idiot. And then be like, oh, thinking it couldn't possibly get worse, and then reading it and watching it actively get worse. This was not my first book by Geneva, but it's only my second book by her. Last year I read Home is Where the Bodies Are and was floored by the ending of that book as well. I will say out of the two, I did like this one a whole lot better. Not saying I didn't like the other one, but this one left a lasting impression. It did actually cause me to buy a bunch of her books. I actually bought her entire backlist. It's right here. The only book I didn't buy was The Perfect Divorce. I did buy The Perfect Marriage. I wanted to wait until I read The Perfect Marriage before buying The Perfect Divorce, but I've definitely purchased more of her books because these two have been amazing, and I want to see what else she's got. So, looking for a good spooky read that's going to keep you hooked from start to finish, this is the one for you. Devouring Grey by Christine Lynn Herman. This is a book that I picked up in Charleston. This was right off the heels of, I think, season 4. of Stranger Things, either season 3 or season 4. You know, they were both so long ago that I can't remember how long ago I bought this book. This was right off the heels of a season of Stranger Things, and reading the back of it, I was just immediately like, this gives Stranger Things vibes. So I got it. I will say, after having read it, I don't know that it still gives Stranger Things vibes. At the time it definitely did, but it's a solid spooky read. It's a young adult novel, so you know it's not going to be too crazy. And just some good mystery behind it. On the edge of town, a beast haunts the woods, trapped in the gray, its bonds loosening. Uprooted from the city, Violet Saunders doesn't have much hope of fitting in at her new school in Four Paths, a town almost buried in the woodlands of rural New York. The fact that she's descended from one of the town's founders doesn't help much either. Her new neighbors treat her with distant respect and something very like fear. When she meets Justin, May, Isaac, and Harper, all children of founder families, and sees the otherworldly destruction they can wreak, she starts to wonder if the townsfolk are right to be afraid. When bodies start to appear in the woods, the locals become downright hostile. Can the teenagers solve the mystery of Four Paths and their own part in it before another calamity strikes? I will say the main reason this gave me Stranger Things vibes is because you are following some teenagers. They're dealing with the dark force in the town, and honestly, the like woods situation. Every time you enter the woods, it's like all of a sudden it's nighttime. It gave me Upside Down vibes whenever they were in the woods and stuff. So I think mostly that's where I got the Stranger Things connection from, was just kind of the storyline was a little bit similar, and I liked that when you entered the woods, it kind of almost reminded me of the Upside Down a little bit. I wouldn't say it's derived from Stranger Things. She might have got a little inspiration, she may not have, I'm not really sure, but if you are a fan of Stranger Things, you'll probably like this book. It's a good spooky read. You're kind of discovering the mystery behind the woods, and you're learning about the other characters through Violet. Specifically, like, you have Harper, who I think is like missing a limb, I'm almost positive, and there's a reason, there's a history behind what that is, and it involves one of the other characters, and there's just a lot of history. You're learning about these characters and about their abilities and their magic and all that kind of stuff. So it gets pretty interesting. I liked the vibes of it. It's kind of a magical world, and it's kind of like Briar Book of the Dead a little bit. You kind of like, they're secluded to this town, and they are kind of the ones that take care of the town, even though the town doesn't love them. So it's kind of a similar situation to Briar Book of the Dead. So moving on to our next book, and that is another Aaron A. Craig banger, Small Favors. I loved this book when I read it. This is one of her standalones. This one is going to be for all of my Fae lovers, because we have some Fae vibes going on in here. Ellery Downing lives in the quiet town of Amity Falls in the Blackspire mountain range. 5 narrow peaks stretching into the sky like a grasping hand, bordered by a nearly impenetrable forest from which the early townsfolk fought off the devils in the woods. To this day, visitors are few and rare, but when a supply party goes missing, some worry that the monsters that once stalked the region have returned. As fall turns to winter, more strange activities plague the town. They point to a tribe of devilish and mystical creatures who promise to fulfill the residents' deepest desires, however grand and impossible, for just a small favor. But their true intentions are much more sinister, and Ellery finds herself in a race against time before all of Amity Falls, her family, and the boy she loves go up in flames. So again, we're dealing with Fae folk here, we're dealing with trickster spirits. It's very, very on edge the whole time. With Aaron A. Craig, this was the second book by her that I read. The first being The House of Salt and Sorrow. So the entire time I was reading this book, I was constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're kind of constantly on edge a little bit, waiting for something else to happen. You're waiting for the twist. You're like, ooh, this feels like we're going too smooth. You know, nothing's happened in a while. Something's gonna happen. So you are kind of just like waiting for the other shoe to drop constantly. And I liked the twist that this book had. I liked the storyline behind it. I like the Fae and trickster spirit vibe going on. So just a very fun, cozy read. The next book on my list is one of my all-time favorites, and this one's going to be for all my Halloween Town fans out there. This is The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. 9 years ago, Vivian Jones nursed her broken heart like any young witch would. Vodka, weepy music, bubble baths, and a curse on the horrible boyfriend. Sure, Vivi knows she shouldn't use her magic this way, but with only an orchard hayride scented candle on hand, she isn't worried it will cause him anything more than a bad hair day or two. That is until Reese Penhallow, descendant of the town's ancestors, breaker of hearts, and annoyingly just as gorgeous as he always was, returns to Graves Glen, Georgia. What should be a quick trip to recharge the town's ley lines and make an appearance at the annual fall festival turns disastrously wrong. With one calamity after another striking Reese, Vivi realizes her silly little ex-hex may not have been so harmless after all. Suddenly, Graves Glen is under attack from murderous wind-up toys, a pissed-off ghost, and a talking cat with some interesting things to say. Vivi and Reese have to ignore their off-the-charts chemistry to work together to save the town and find a way to break the breakup curse before it's too late. This is one of those books that you're going to find on an end cap at Barnes & Noble. It's a very cutesy little witch read. It's not super complicated. There's not a lot going on. It's a very simple, little cutesy little fall cozy book. Again, if you're a fan of Halloween Town, you're going to love this book. It's kind of like an adult Halloween Town going on. It kind of has adult Halloween Town High vibes, if that makes any sense. I don't know, it kind of reminds me of the carnival scene in Halloween Town High when the giant skeleton's trying to attack, all those vibes. A simple little, witchy read. I loved the witty banter between Reese and Vivi in this. This is very, lovers to enemies to lovers. And yeah, it's just kind of it's a very easy book to follow. It's like Spooky Cozy Books 101 is this book. If you end up liking this book, there is another follow-up book that is about Vivi's aunt, I believe, or cousin, and it's just as good. So if you end up liking this book, I highly recommend you read the other one. She has another one coming out it's already out, called The Wedding Witch, and it looks like it's a Christmassy read. So I want to get it and read it this Christmas, I think. Super, super cute book, super easy read. It's Halloween Town for adults. And if that doesn't make you want to read it, then I don't know what else will. The next book that I have is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This is a book that we read for book club this year, and everyone really liked it. I will say this is a book that I had no idea it was going the direction it went, so very exciting. Casey Fletcher, a recently widowed actress trying to escape a streak of bad press, has retreated to the peace and quiet of her family's lake house in Vermont. Armed with a pair of binoculars and several bottles of liquor, she passes the time watching Tom and Catherine Royce, the glamorous couple who live in the house across the lake. They make for good viewing. A tech innovator, Tom is rich, and a former model, Catherine is gorgeous. One day on the lake, Casey saves Catherine from drowning, and the two strike up a budding friendship. But the more they get to know each other, and the longer Casey watches, it becomes clear that Catherine and Tom's marriage is not as perfect and placid as it appears. When Catherine suddenly vanishes, Casey becomes consumed with finding out what happened to her. In the process, she uncovers eerie, darker truths that turn a tale of voyeurism and suspicion into a story of guilt, obsession, and how looks can be very deceiving. So this is a very good book. I have recently gotten into Riley Sager, and this was the first one I read by her. And I would say it's a very easy mystery read. You're gonna stay hooked to the plot. You're gonna constantly be wondering what the heck is going on. I was suspicious of everyone at some point. I never wasn't suspicious of everyone at some point. You're kind of following the actress, and it's a little bit of an unreliable narrator because she is constantly drugged or drunk, and you're just like, okay, but is she actually seeing what she thinks she's seeing, or is she not? So you're kind of questioning her along with herself because she's also questioning what she saw. But yeah, a good mystery read. I will say it fits in with spooky season for a certain reason I won't name, but a very good mystery read for any just like solid mystery lovers out there. The next book I have is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Alicia Berenson's life is seemingly perfect. A famous painter married to an in-demand fashion photographer, she lives in a grand house with big windows, overlooking a park in one of London's most desirable areas. One evening, her husband, Gabriel, returns home late from a fashion shoot, and Alicia shoots him 5 times in the face, and then never speaks another word. Alicia's refusal to talk or give any kind of explanation turns a domestic tragedy into something far grander, a mystery that captures the public imagination and casts Alicia into notoriety. The price of her art skyrockets, and she, the silent patient, is hidden away from the tabloids and spotlight at the Grove, a secure forensic unit in North London. Theo Faber is a criminal psychotherapist who has waited a long time for the opportunity to work with Alicia. His determination to get her to talk and unravel the mystery of why she shot her husband takes him down a twisting path into his own motivations, a search for the truth that threatens to consume him. I will guarantee you. So I actually spoke with Liz about this yesterday. If you don't know who Liz is, that is my co-host on Pan and Farley podcast, where we are talking about the Hunger Games books. Currently we're reading through Sunrise on the Reaping. We were actually talking about this yesterday, and she saw the ending of this coming because she likes horror movies. I do not like horror movies, so I did not see the ending of this coming. She talked about a couple other books that she saw the plot twist coming because she's a horror movie fan. So if you don't like horror movies, or watch them, you're probably not going to guess this ending either. Even if you did, I think it's a great book. I think it's a fun book. The twist, even if you know what it is, I think is going to be crazy because you're just like, how does somebody do that? It's a whole thing. I loved this book. I, honest to goodness, did not catch the ending coming, so it was a major moment, a gasp out loud moment, and I think it's just a really solid mystery, a little bit of a psychological thriller, I would say. Yeah, you're just kind of following and trying to figure out what happened with Alicia and her husband, and you're going through this psychotherapist who's interviewing her at the institution that she's in. It's a good time. It's a great mystery, spooky read. My last book on here is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. After their mother passes, 3 estranged siblings reunite to sort out her estate. Beth, the oldest, never left home. She stayed with her mom, caring for her until the very end. Nicole, the middle child, has been kept at arm's length due to her ongoing battle with a serious drug addiction. Michael, the youngest, lives out of state and hasn't been back to their small Wisconsin town since their father ran out on them 7 years before. While going through their parents' belongings, the siblings stumble upon a collection of home videos and decide to revisit those happier memories. However, the nostalgia is cut short when one of the VHS tapes reveals a night back in 1999 that none of them have any recollection of. On screen, their father appears covered in blood. What follows is a dead body and a pact between their parents to get rid of it, before the video abruptly ends. Beth, Nicole, and Michael must now decide whether to leave the past in the past or uncover the dark secret their mother took to their grave. I will say this is another book, and I know I've said this about literally almost every one of the books on this list, but this is one that I really didn't see the ending coming. I stayed pretty hooked from start to ending. I will say there was a couple dry moments, so maybe look out for those, but it wasn't anything too crazy to keep me from finishing it. Definitely was not a DNF by far. I'm pretty positive I gave this 5 out of 5. I really liked this book. This was my first Geneva Rose book when I read it. It was just a solid mystery, and you're trying to figure out what happened. I kind of like the element of learning things that happened through the VHS tapes. One fun element of this book I will say is the actual physical copy of it. It looks like an old VHS tape, and it's in like a sleeve and everything, so the book itself is really cool. This was another book I listened to, and I believe this is one of the audiobooks I really liked because when it was the VHS tapes, it kind of changed the audio quality a little bit to make it sound like it was on a VHS tape. I'm almost positive that this was one of those, but I really liked this book. I think it's a solid mystery. I think you're going to struggle to find out the ending unless this is one that you kind of seen the ending coming before. A really solid spooky read. That may be all the books that were on my suggested reads for spooky season. But another little tidbit I wanted to add here at the end is my TBR for October. If you are new to the book world and you don't know, TBR stands for To Be Read. So these are basically the lineup of books that I have planned for October. Normally on a month-to-month basis, I don't have a TBR month-to-month for the most part. Sometimes I can kind of tell myself I want to read that this month or whatever. And obviously the book club book is always on the TBR for that month. October is really the only time of the year that I strategically plan out what I'm going to read in October, mostly because I'm such a mood reader, and on book-to-book basis I'm going to change my mind on what I want to read. But my October is strictly spooky season books. It is strictly spooky books. These are books that I have had all year long that I saved for spooky season. And I think actually at least one of these books was on my list last year and I didn't get to it, so it got relocated to this year. Starting out, we'll say Smile for the Cameras by Miranda Smith. This is actually what I'm currently reading, so probably by the time that this video comes out, I should be done with it. I like this book so far. It's based in Tennessee, which if you aren't aware, I am in Tennessee. Where this is based is really local to me, so it's kind of cool to get to see, like, read the book. And she landed at Knoxville Airport, which is not, that's the airport we use to fly out of and into. So it's kind of cool getting to see local spots. I know the rest of it is based in the Smoky Mountains so far, so I'm interested to see if we branch out of the Smoky Mountains or if other things get mentioned that, I know. So far so good, so hoping to have this finished soon. The next book on my October TBR is All the Murmuring Bones by A.G. Slatter. Earlier I mentioned The Briar Book of the Dead by her, so this is another one of the books that I have gotten by her that I'm excited to read this year. This one's about mermaids, so that's very exciting. We also have The Path of Thorns by A.G. Slatter, another one by her that I got this year. I have two Aaron A. Craig books on here. We have A Land So Wide, which is a newer release that I've just been saving for October, and The 13th Child, which I think came out last year and I saved it for this October. Both of these I'm really excited to read by her. She tends to write a good mystery spooky novel. I also have The Coven by Harper L. Woods. This is a witch book. A girl in my book club actually recently read this and really liked it, so I've been excited to read this. I know there's a couple sequels out, so if I like it, hopefully I can get to the sequel soon. And then the last book I have on here is our book club book this month, but it very much fits with the theme, and that is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. So another mystery spooky novel. So in total for October, I have 7 books planned. Currently reading 6, and it's the last day of September, so hopefully getting it done soon, and would probably just leave about 6 books for October in full. And on a month-to-month basis, I tend to read about 5 or 6 books in average, so this shouldn't be a difficult list to tackle. I will say spooky season is usually my main reading time, so there's a good chance I could read these books plus some. There's also a chance that I could just read this amount of books. So you just never know. I hit random reading slumps all the time. I'm very excited for October. I love reading spooky books. I tend to try and do all my mystery and thrillers in September, and then I save my paranormal, supernatural books for October. So these are all books that kind of fit in with that vibe. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. Hopefully maybe you found some new spooky reads to add to your TBR for this month. Let me know down below if any of these books are ones that you've read and that you loved, or if you're going to be adding any of these to your TBR. I would love to know. I'm so excited if you are adding them to your TBR. I hope you enjoyed them, and once you read them, let me know in the comments down below what you thought. I want to give a quick shout out that the music you hear in this video is made by my cousin Katie Wampler. If you haven't already, be sure and like and subscribe to this video. Follow my Instagram for further updates on videos and teasers and fun reels and all that jazz. And yeah, happy spooky season to those who celebrate. Halloween is my favorite holiday of the year. Fall is my favorite season. This is my favorite month. We've got some fun videos planned for this month, including a Halloween party that I'll be maybe somewhat vlogging. I'm hoping to get to go to the pumpkin patch down the street from me that also has a corn maze and a hayride. Hoping to do that with my cousin one of the days and get to film that for you guys. I think next week we'll be talking about my favorite Halloween movies. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. I'm so excited for what's left to come in this spooky season, and I hope that you have an amazing spooky season and have the most amazing fun this fall, and you know, any Halloween parties or trick-or-treating that you're going to be doing. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your spooky season and the rest of your spooky day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!